welcome back to Cast Me to Hell with me, Seb.
And me, Robbie.
And we return and straight from the cinema after seeing The Black Phone 2.
Yes, and we did see The Black Phone 1 when I think it was released in the UK in 2020. So if you haven't listened to that episode, then we've got that already.
We've got that back then. If you remember having COVID,
yeah,
you might remember Black Phone.
Yeah, it was around the COVID era. I mean, this was... So we do a spoiler-free and a spoiler-filled, but we didn't get a chance to see it when it came out. So we're just going to go straight in spoiler-filled discussion.
We are terrible. We are 3 days past the opening release. So that's just terrible. So we decided... Most people that want to see it probably gone out to see it last weekend, and if you haven't, then fucking why are you listening?
Why are you listening to us?
Why do you want it to be ruined for you?
Yes, and if you do want it to be ruined, sit and have a listen to the episode. Yeah, we don't want to drive people away completely.
Yeah, I mean the reaction to Black Phone 2 so far mainly seems to be positive, but there is kind of mixed messages in there with this film that have had out there. And again, you listening have hopefully seen the film, so how you feel about it may be a little bit of blended in there with what it is. And I can kind of see from some of the reactions out there, you know, Black Phone felt very much like it was a standalone tale.
Yeah,
and it wasn't really built for a sequel. And I remember coming up for this film when I saw the trailer. I think the first time I saw it was with you actually in the cinema.
I think it was.
I don't think I watched it online or anything. So I was plenty surprised to be like, so Nightmare on Elm Street, but Black Phone 2, but Nightmare on Elm Street, basically like the closest you could get to a modern Freddy film, I guess, something like that. And that's not untrue, but not quite maybe the way that I think the trailer portrayed it as being like. A lot of people said that this sequel, from what I'd heard of early reactions or even from the craze and stuff, said that this is like a completely different beast than the original Black Phone, and this is a sequel that is, you know, kind of majorly unhinged and kind of a lot more kind of, I don't know. I got the feeling like they were selling it as if it was so maybe a little bit quicker and a bit faster than this film actually is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I kind of feel like it was a quite messy film for me. There was stuff that I liked, stuff that I didn't like. You're right, I kind of went into it, maybe because a lot of people were saying it's kind of as close to, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street as maybe they can legally get without doing, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. And maybe I expected more, and some of it is in there, definitely. But what I didn't expect, and I don't know whether you got this, is that it didn't exactly feel as if it was a continuation of the first Black Phone. It felt to me as if there could have been a Black Phone in between that was more focused on Finn's story. Like I was watching this and I was thinking like, you got to do something, Finn. Is this your film or is this your sister's film?
I think it's definitely sister's film. I think it's pushed towards the sister. I mean, I guess that comes part of it is kind of in the revenge plot of that kind of that it becomes more focused. The sister in the first, I don't know. Actually, I was actually thinking about this in the cinema because a lot of people saying that it wasn't. I'd seen a lot of reactions saying that it wasn't really like, you know. That it wasn't maybe as linked to the original, but I actually felt that a lot of the pace and tone of this film felt very similar to the first Black Phone. Like more than I expected. I expected them to take it really not like a fully different way, but take it in a kind of different direction with the way. But all of the you know the kind of style of the old school footage mixed in with the characters and the way that the pace it slowly like creeps things out or slowly gives like parts like that. Because I haven't rewatched the Black Phone before this, I can't remember as well, but I can remember the elements of like obviously the supernatural parts of the children that have been abducted and killed already being on the other end of the phone and him being stuck in there. So obviously that was much more of a contained film than this one was, but you know the sister was the one that had a kind of psychic ability in the original film kind of thing, so it makes sense for her to be in there. But I actually think that it does feel like it comes off of the original film in the way that the pacing is quite slow and tonally. It feels like it's very much the kind of same thing. But I think that's also slightly where some of the problems come, because it feels like it's like that kind of film, and it almost doesn't take advantage enough of the different way it could have been taken. It felt like it almost needed to really make this its own thing, even though it had linked characters. It felt like it didn't make it quite as like, this is a different film than the first one, as much as I expected it to. I felt like it really still stuck to a lot of the kind of the character and the slow pace that the original kind of had, which worked for what it was in the original, because the original had the whole investigation and the missing children, and it felt a little bit more closer to home, whereas this one felt a bit more distant, and therefore I feel like in place of the investigation-y parts that you might have had in the original and the more who's there and that kind of part, it needed something to make it feel a bit more spiced up than it actually ended up feeling.
Yeah, I kind of got an impression that it was quite... I don't know if you got this. And this is just one of my main things. And it's not that I disliked the film, because this was one of the films I was most looking forward to. But it was a bit maybe like uninspired. It kind of... It felt as if... I don't know. I was kind of watching it and it felt as if it was just running out of steam at some point. Sometimes the writing was like very hand-holding. Yeah. It had an 18 certificate, and I was like, "Oh, we're gonna see some shit." I respect a film that's kind of leaning into the 18 more, and is kind of willing to maybe take a hit at the box office in terms of like, "Oh, we're not a 15," which I believe the original or the first one was. Whereas it felt a bit kind of bloodless as well. Apart from the
think it's the violence to the children. Maybe it's the violence, that 18 certificate. It does have some quite harrowing like scenes of children, but they're kind of more off screen. Like in terms of like, you're not actually seeing a child get hacked up, but you are seeing like the blood or the intestines or the body parts. You're seeing like those, those scenes, like when he does those kind of early found footagey kind of style of that old school like footage of the children dying. So those bits are quite affecting. Like they come quite early on.
It felt quite video nasty.
Yeah,
to me.
It felt brutal. It felt the brutality. The only thing is, because the children got those brutality, I guess it also sets your mind up that you're going to get a lot more brutality in the real world, which is a weird thing that we don't quite get nearly as much as you're expecting. It's almost like we get the brutality of these children early on, and each one, kill. We've got one that's like hacked in half, basically, like down the middle, and we've got one that's literally like brutalized and knifed in the middle of a forest early on, and you get them floating up to the water, and these are some like really unsettling scenes, and it does have some really, and Scott Derrickson is good at doing this, even with Sinister and things like that. The first one, very good at doing this kind of weird. It feels very much like it's leaning into Sinister that they did originally. Feels like they're very much revisiting that kind of style for it here. But there is a slight tonality at times where it kind of like feels like it pops up out of nowhere, and you're a bit like, I feel like at the same time you're also like interrupting the middle of our thing to do another dream sequence when we were just in the middle of a character moment, and you've just kind of weirdly interrupted it without doing much. Like you're coming back into the real world, done one scene, and then going back into the dream world. Yeah, and there's a bit of tonality there that felt a little bit like, oh, okay, we're back here again, and we're doing this again.
And I feel like we hear about how bad the grabber is, but we never actually see it. It's like we have these three characters, the three kids who have been killed, and I really like the prosthetics of them and the makeup and how they look, and the kind of ghostly characters of them were good. But it's almost like they brought in like Mustang and then Barb and her husband, and they brought in the kind of the main camp counselor guy. And I was thinking, like, okay, maybe these are kind of our, like, disposable people, However, it kind of never ends up actually playing out, Like, none of these people ever die, or none of them ever kind of... There is the big end part, which does have a kind of, like, decent climax to it, but also I just found it quite funny that he was skating and doing this,
I mean, It does, yeah. It's one of those weird ones where it's like, okay, they don't kill him, although they put, especially our protagonist, he goes through a bit of a ringer, But it doesn't kill. Yeah, it doesn't really kill any of the characters outside of it. I mean, the third act's its own thing, because I have kind of some problems about the logic of how all this suddenly changes. I feel like in that final climax, I feel like a lot of the logic of how the grabber's been working this entire film suddenly goes, nah, fuck it. It goes a bit like, yeah, we can do it. So it's a strange one with those, you've got this bunch of characters who are together, like in this kind of resort. I mean, one thing actually is the setting I really like. Yeah. I really like the look of the setting. There's one or two scenes that I can't really tell if they were just the way that the camera made it look, or if it was CGI on the lake and stuff like that. Because some of it looked a bit like it was a CGI kind of background, which occasionally took it from these real beautiful shots. And I was like, those ones look a bit oddly like blurry and a bit off kind of thing. But the scenery and the setup, I think's really good on this. I think the whole Colorado covered in snow. I mean, it's a nice setting for like a horror film. It's nice that we're kind of taken into a camp. Basically, it's kind of an old school. We're touching on a few old school kind of horror kind of tropes in a way. But yeah, you kind of expect when they go into a camp to almost have more victims available to them, which are not actually there, kind of thing. No. And it is very focused on the sister. So it's the majority of everything that happens mainly happens through the sister. Everyone else is kind of like just to watch her go through some shit. Basically, is that kind of how it plays out.
Yeah, and that's my thing is it's very much sold as being this kind of revenge story.
Yeah,
between the grabber and Finn, but it never really feels like that plays out fully. For the first 2/3 of the film. Yeah. He has about one conversation with him, and he's just smoking weed. You know?
And he doesn't. Well, that's the thing. Like, he doesn't see him. I kept on expecting it to change over so that more than one person can see, but only, I guess, there's a kind of one of the more kind of that I think maybe people might, if they liked the original, they might not like, because no one likes it when you kind of retool the past and change kind of a part of a storyline, because the whole mother part is added into this, that the mother is the first character we see at the very beginning of the film on the phone, which we obviously don't know is the mother at that point. And we find out that she's actually was there the same time that Wild Bill was there, as the grabber is actually called.
Yeah.
And that she herself actually was never committed suicide, but she actually was killed by Wild Bill, which kind of then makes the way that her son is caught in the first film technically slightly kind of makes it feel like there must have been more of a that's why kind of, it gives you a little bit of a a retcon in a way, a little bit, like not a major one because that's not a big part of the original film, but it gives like a different background of why or how they get there, which is one of those things where it's like I'm perfectly fine with it, but I can see if someone really likes the original film that no one likes a retcon. No one likes like it's a little bit of that thing where it's the kind of sequel part. And you've got a sequel, and not all sequels do this, but where you've got how can we make it link back to the original, so we need to find a link. And then you have that scene like they have in this one, which is following like the first time that she gets properly like attacked by him, which is I really liked that scene.
Yeah.
But there's that scene when they're all in the church, and it kind of goes into that, oh, you've got to do this in the sequel kind of thing. You are the new characters and you are the original characters. So now we've got to have a conversation, an exposition conversation about the fact that, you're Finn. Yeah. Oh my God, you're Finn. This and like, everyone knows that story. His name's Finn. What is it? Finn. Oh shit, you're Finn. And they kind of all sat around having this kind of conversation about like how all of these, and it's really having to like, it's like, we got it, guys, but you're really threading this together for us. When it's like, okay, the missing children, there it is, And I was waiting for it. They had the picture and like, here's this person and here's this person. I was just sat there going, and where is he? Where's the grabber? Because obviously, this is going to be the we see a younger grabber, like when the boys are being killed, you see what looks like a younger grabber, kind of a muscular kind of guy that is like hacking them up. So you're like, well, that's the grabber. So you see how it is, but although it is a twist, I felt like it was quite highly signposted before you ever got there, kind of thing of what it was going to be. It was like, you're at a camp, you got this. It kind of felt very obvious that the grabber was going to have been there, kind of thing. Yeah, that this is why he is there. To link into that whole like how he is somehow haunting this place, like the place of his first victims and things like that, which. Going to the whole Nightmare on Elm Street kind of elements of it. I mean, there is one thing that they have which the Nightmare on Elm Street films always struggled with, was they've actually got a way in which you get rid of his power, which is by getting rid of the souls of the young boys that were killed before. Like that's a good way around the whole like. Because one thing they always struggled with in Nightmare on Elm Street is actually how the fuck do you get rid of Freddy Krueger? Yes. It's a very good idea, although again, I don't think it plays out quite so well when you get to the actual very end of the film, that idea.
And it's also how they stumble on that, because and that's what I mean about it just spoon feeds you sometimes, because in that scene you were talking about where they're in the church and they're threading like, oh, you're Finn, and oh, it's the grabber. And then they're just like straight up, oh, the bodies were here, but they were never found. So if we find them, then his power will be dissipated. Yeah. All right, let's crack on.
Well, it's that one exposition scene where they bring all of this together in like one scene of like, oh, so that was, and I've actually been searching for him this whole time. I just didn't want to tell anyone about that, and even though the two guys that didn't want to tell you anything about it know that I'm actually on the hunt for this. So I've been on the hunt for this the whole time, and I want to. Relieve those children. Maybe not. Bring those boys back. Take those boys to heaven is what he wants to do.
Take them
So that bit is kind of some of the slightly, because in a film that does so much to be almost kind of artsy in its kind of style of these, like the way it shows the dream sequence again in this like grainy like 35mm like real film kind of way, clicking between that and more of a slightly more digital kind of look between back and forth, for a film that like just tries to do a lot. And early on I will say that I feel like it works. I've heard a lot of people say that they thought the beginning was very slow, and I'm not saying it's not slow, but I felt it felt inappropriate for the original film. It felt like an appropriate amount of like, oh, here's the characters, getting them back into it kind of thing, getting us to the resort again. It feels a bit like, okay, we're sending them somewhere else, whatever kind of thing. But like, I didn't mind the kind of early. You've got Ernesto, who is the same, played by the same actor who played blanked on his name now. Robin, who played Robin in the original. It's the same kid come back to play his younger brother, now grown up kind of thing. So you've got kind of those characters. You've got some quick, brief moments with like the dad from the original film, who was more of an alcoholic beater in the first one. And he seems to have brought his life back together a little bit. And Finn's getting into fights and stuff like that. And it is like the stuff with the sister, is mainly pretty good stuff. Sadly, Finn somewhat seems a bit surface level at times. Like he's having he's struggling with what happened in the past, and I don't mind that part of it. It's always kind of interesting to return to a character and see how they've been like affected by it. And he's mainly bottling up, and we've got a bit of the whole like reflection of his dad, the same way she's almost a reflection of her mum. And I didn't mind those scenes when it's like the dad and the sister all together saying like, that's exactly what you're doing.
Oh, it was a good scene. And Finn's performance was good.
Yeah,
it was just I would have liked him to be in it a bit more. Yeah, because it feels like the main parts that he had was he beat the kid up at the start, and then he's like, I don't want my sister to go with this guy. He answers the phone, and it felt like he was a bit kind of absent until the end.
I mean, I think he was intended to be more. This time more of a side character to the sister, obviously.
Maybe that's my expectations going.
But he was going to be more of the main, and he's more of the side character, kind of constantly watching over her. But it just didn't. It felt like because hers started to take such a big part of it, he was so much sidelined that it was kind of like Finn's not got this vendetta against the grabber. Like, it felt like that all like didn't really get a chance to almost shine, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the points towards the end when he finally got kind of those moments were kind of more, okay, yeah, but it almost feels like now you didn't earn it this time, because we didn't get enough of you to earn what we get at the end, kind of thing, or the confusing nature of what actually goes down. It's just like what everyone else is actually seeing in that moment. For me. Kind of sticking on some of the early stuff before we get to that kind of the climactic stuff is, I mean, Ethan Hawke, I mean, I guess he wasn't maybe as consistently in it in even the first one, to be fair, as you might think he is.
No.
But he's not in it for like quite a big chunk of the film. Like, he shows up like in an early scene when Finn's smoking weed and kind of seeing him. And obviously, I don't know if it's him who's performing the version of as the younger Bill or someone else is playing it. I thought it was someone else who's playing it, but so it feels like Ethan's mainly there for kind of a couple of scenes, like towards second, near the end of the second act into the third act kind of thing.
And I think the grabber's a good character.
Yeah,
I like when he's on scene. He is the moments that are creepy and kind of tense in this are really well done. You know, and I think whenever the grabber's on screen, he's pretty good. He's pretty consistent. For me, it was just the skating at the end. Like, it felt so weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't so bothered about the skatey part of it. I don't know what I thought when he was first skating, it seemed kind of like like, okay, that's kind of a cool shot kind of thing as he like appears out of the fog, skating towards her. But yeah, I can see how like the more he's like doing twirls around the whole thing, it starts to be a bit more like oh, that's a bit odd. They have with his character of the grabber. So the early scenes of the boys, I think, are some of the most harrowing parts of this film. I think Scott Derrickson is good at making kind of what feels like very uncomfortable kind of looks of horror, like those scenes with the boys dying, when it's children like that, and it is quite. Even though, again, you don't totally see it, there's enough graphic images there that make it feel very like... And you've got a boy, like, at one point burning, and then his burning corpse just, like, bits of his corpse just left on the ground. Yeah. When we're in one of the dream sequences, he literally sees that burning body on the ground. And some of the cool ones, I think, were, like, I liked the snowman. Yeah. When the snowman like hits the screen, that got me for a second. I got a jump there. I was like, oh fuck.
The bit in the kind of in the girl's cabin, where she sees the three kind of ghost children, dream children, whatever we're calling them. That bit was really good. The bit where they're under the bed got me. Yeah. But then when they're kind of like coming around her and the one's outside and its head gets decapitated, that was great.
Oh yeah, the bit with the head decapitation, because you've got like what I'm pretty certain was the practical effect of the partial face on the ground in the blood. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that was like a little animatronic kind of thing, but it looked really cool.
It looked good.
And then the outside like thing, that was some of the creepiest scenes. But that's my only thing, is that I actually found that a lot of that atmospheric stuff, a lot of stuff with the boys was really creepy. A lot of those images of like them being like cut in half and that kind of part. And some of the stuff when the grabber's like kind of appearing out of nowhere. It's more the scenes when he's actually there attacking her that I found less scary than a lot of the other scenes that he was in. I found a lot of those scenes when he was kind of just walking around the room and stuff. I felt like some of the fear of him, like, because he was so present then, that it kind of like lingered some of that fear away. Okay. I think in the first film he only appeared in like very like short scenes, like coming down the stairs and stuff like that. Yeah. So some of those scenes when he's like. And again, I really like the scene because it kind of follows on from there when she's back in the dream and she walks towards the kitchen and she has the ovens opening up, and the first time that it's properly like, oh yeah, I can fuck with you kind of thing.
Yeah, like, I like that. Very Nightmare on Elm Street.
Very like throwing her around the room, picking her up. But one thing I did like actually was the fact that we didn't have any like. Because I thought it's just her in there. They're going to come in, they're going to see certain, but they're not going to actually know like they're not going to believe her or something like that. You know what I mean? Like almost as if she was choking herself is what I thought we were going to get from that scene. But instead they just go straight for it, like throwing her into a bloody fridge, throwing her against the thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh shit, she's actually fucking flying around the room. Instead of trying to play the whole like, oh, we don't quite believe you card, they just go straight for the fucking out. There you are, like throwing her around. And I really like that, you know, the way. The parts that they are taking from Elm Street, like the whole it comes into reality. So when she gets burned on the arm by the burning child's hand, and she gets sliced along the arm and things like that, or going near the fire, and they're all trying to pull her away, and everyone's getting like bashed around. Those scenes are really cool. Like
I was just hoping somebody was going in the fire.
Yeah.
Because
it seemed set up that he can't get her, but someone else could be banged or knocked in or something like that, you know.
Yeah, and that's my thing is like when you look at it, nobody massively comes under. Nobody dies.
Yeah.
And even like Barb and her husband, who at the end like get beaten up slightly.
Yeah.
They don't get. Nobody gets.
And
like,
that's the weird thing, because we've got this whole. So one of my problems with the kind of logic of it, like I say, is obviously we've got the scene of him there, but very much in that scene it's implied that she can be attacked because she's almost in the dream with him.
Yeah.
But doesn't give you the idea that he could attack anyone else, that he can grab anyone else. He doesn't get anyone else apart from her. So that, you know, and apart from the scene with the snowman when he like bashes his face into the thing, or when you get like the children like making it shake from outside, but no one's actually physically able to touch any of the people, it appears, that aren't in this kind of psychic dream link kind of thing. So that's what we get from the first scene with her, because I was kind of hoping that he was suddenly going to actually be able to grab or hold someone else and lob them into that flames or like burn them, but we didn't get that in the scene. The only thing with that is that because of the way that they're talking about him and the way that they link it to the boys and stuff like that, they're like, he's feeding off of the power of these children from the dead, is what they say. They're like, he's feeding off, you know, again, in that very expositionary scene where they explain all of this, how any of this works. But this is the point when he therefore has all three children still lost, and he's still feeding off all of that power. So it kind of feels like this is the point when he should have the most power, because later on they get one of the children's bodies and they've got one. So technically they've removed his power, and yet somehow later in the film he's more powerful. And I can't quite work how that logic quite works, because not because that, but if they hadn't explained it as being the boys, he's feeding from the power from the boys, then I'd be like, oh, well that's fine, then it must be that, you know, everyone's more aware of him now, so he's got more power, you know, and that could still be the case. But because they linked it so much to the fact that he's like almost holding on to the souls of the boys is what gives him the power kind of thing, I was just like, you've talked your way, you've expositioned your way into what felt like a bit of a logic corner there when you didn't really need to. Like, it's the same thing with Freddy. It's like, you know, he knows that people exist, he has a lot of power, that seems good enough. And that's what I'm still assuming is the case, is that he was able to take that off of them. But that's just why when it gets that third act and he's suddenly just able to do things that are like grabbing people and pulling people around and like axing someone in midair and things like that, it's like, well, why couldn't you have done... Why didn't that happen earlier? Well, why couldn't you do that earlier?
My assumption was that earlier he was just fucking with them. And he assumed that none of them would figure it out. So when they actually get to the point where I think the first one is the camp leader, and he finds the body, and then once he starts getting involved with it, then the grabber's like, oh, I'm gonna fuck this guy up.
Yeah,
so
like
that was my
holding his head down in the water.
Yeah, mine was that it's like he's playing with them. And he can do that stuff. He's just choosing not to, and it's only kind of when they start to clock what's going on and how to defeat him, and they actually find the corpses, that he tries to stop them. That was my
I get that. It just, in terms of like, if you're going to make a film and sell it and make it feel like it's going to be a slasher, then it feels a little bit like kind of like that scene looking back at it in the kitchen suddenly seems a bit more like, well, if you could have done that before, then why didn't you do that before? Why didn't you fuck someone? You know what I mean? Why didn't we fuck someone? Well, like, you know what I mean? It's a bit like, I get playing it kind of like, oh, we're very much playing it to character and stuff like that, which is absolutely fine. It is quite a like character kind of driven, obviously story wise. But it does just feel, it makes you feel a little bit like, you could have at least you could have let him loose a little bit sooner, I feel. You could have let him be a bit more of a slasher, kind of take these people out. It feels like, even like that snowman scene again, when he starts bashing his face, that's the stuff that makes you feel. It felt like he was going in that scene. It felt like that's what we were building up to. But instead, and this is what made me wonder about the powers and stuff, because it felt like the most he could do was kind of like, basically like use the objects around him a little bit. Like he could like bash his face into the snow like he does in that, which makes it come through more, and he could like move a few things around, but he's not actually physically able to get any of them, is what it seemed like, which is why it just felt jarring to me when he was suddenly able to properly like, the pushing down of the head was one thing, but what he's then doing like towards the end feels like it's very much of a bigger flex than earlier.
Yeah, definitely. It was just, I'm trying. I mean, is there anything you want to say before we get on to the kind of the third act?
I think in terms of just those kind of like, I do really like the way that they use the dream sequences. I do think they were just quite like cool with the sister. I don't mind the whole twist, of the way that we almost follow the grabber and her. I mean, I logically have no idea why the fuck she'd get into that van with him when she's like, "You're going to try and kill me." But I did kind of like the kind of like that he's almost like giving her like the information that he's enjoying playing with her. That felt a little bit more like what I remember of the original, of him almost wanting to play little games almost in a way with them. He didn't want it to just be like, if he wanted to kill him, he could have just killed the child and then just left the body, but he didn't. He kept the child and he almost played with them and messed with them, to the point where you've got that. And that's kind of what you had in the original. So I do like the fact that he kind of tiptoes around it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I did like. I was like I didn't dislike this film. I did enjoy it for like quite a lot of the film.
Same.
I do think it's not going to be to everyone's taste because it is slow. It is it lingers on a bit and it feels a little bit like we get a bit of I don't know, sameness, or like we're not really like moving on a lot at times. Sometimes it feels like we kind of stick around and we get another dream sequence, but. And we get one great one before, the one that ends with like her on the ice, and then finally like, so the scene in the telephone box, so that is when the first time of him pushing under the ice, and we see him actually able to hold someone down. But her, when she's getting like, she gets sliced on the arm in her like early on, like in her bed when she's fighting them when they're trying to keep her awake. And then she continues to just get like little like caught by him, and then finally she gets like when he tries to drown Damien Bashir's character. When he starts to drown him down, he suddenly appears and smashes through the glass at her and starts tangling the telephone round. And to be fair, and also because they make it look as if they've killed her. They make it look like Tina in the Nightmare.
A little,
They give her that kind of, she's literally getting like choked out, and he spins her with the cable to literally make. It turns out it's more the blood from her arm that's dripping everywhere that spreads the blood everywhere. But it makes it look like he's just like split her neck or something.
Definitely.
So. But again, though, that was the part when I was like, "Oh fuck, he actually killed." Like he said he was going to kill her, and he's actually done it, kind of thing. That made me feel like, "Oh shit, okay." And then when it turned out she wasn't, I was a little bit, "Oh."
Exactly.
I was like, it felt like, if I'm honest, I really felt like from early in the film, I felt like Finn was going to get it in this film. I was like, Finn's going to kind of, the sister's going to be the focus. But he's going to get his own back on Finn, and a few people are going to get it in that kind of nasty kind of like, you're not expecting them to get it. But when she went, I was like, this is it. This is interesting, because where does it go with the dreams now?
Exactly, yeah.
It's going to have to go back to Finn, and he's going to have to finish this, and he's going to have to overcome, but without being able to, save his sister.
So much, yeah.
And I actually think that would have been far more interesting, because again, we've got that link between him and his dad, and the way that his dad has lived in this kind of wallow from it, and we've got the link between the mum and the daughter kind of thing. And if the daughter had then also gone, I know it would have felt like sudden, but it could have also allowed for Finn to kind of have this kind of moment of like, this is gonna fuck me, but I can overcome this. I can go beyond this. I can, I'm not gonna be what he became, kind of thing. I'm going to. I felt like that would have had a better arc in this film for Finn to still have an actual clear arc, which might not have been as clear early on, but after her death would have been a lot more like, he has been so fucked by this that the only way we can do this is that he has to end him permanently, kind of thing. We have to end it here. But then it doesn't. Like, it's a really cool scene. Her fighting back when she explodes, she explodes the thing and actually fights back. But again, like, that's another scene where I was like, okay, awesome, we're going Dream Warriors on this shit.
Yeah.
She's about to fucking like I was literally there, like, she's just controlled her powers. She can blast that telephone box open. I was almost expecting it to start like fucking getting shards of glass and start like throwing them into.
Yeah.
I know that sounds a little bit like crazy, but like I would have been all in for that, because that is like using the dreams properly, like not kill him permanently, but fucking scare off the grabber for a little while.
Yeah.
Instead, it's more like, I know how to control my power now. I'm gonna leave the dream now. By the way, I think I've worked out how to do this now. But then the next time she goes into it, it no longer feels like she's in control anymore. It's like, I know how to control this. I could probably grab all this shit and like fuck you up right now. I'm just gonna go off for a while, and I'll come back later, and then I won't come back into the dream and like properly fuck you though. I'll. Later on I might use it to dive.
Maybe later. Yeah.
Instead of being like, I'm gonna fuck you up, really. Like, I might use it later. It just, it felt a little bit like it was like a really like cool moment of she's just been beaten the shit up, but she's now got powers and she's covered in blood, and you're getting a bit of like a Carrie vibe from her, and you're getting the whole thing. And I was like, that was actually the point when I was like, if the film had literally just been like, this is when she completely like fucks him over kind of thing, I would have been probably pretty happy then. I'd be like, this is the kind of slight turn away from the original that I was almost expecting you to kind of take it to a weird different place. So I don't know why. I felt like after that scene, the third act to me felt like, okay, but anticlimactic compared to what my brain suddenly went, shit, yes.
Yeah, this is what they're going to be able to do.
Yeah, this is what she's going to be able to do. And I almost wanted, because even from the first film, playing up her kind of slight abilities and stuff like that, and then playing up here, I kind of wanted her to take a bit more control of that dreamscape that I don't think she ever really does.
No.
Sadly. Even though, again, there's one scene that makes it feel like you're about to get his ass handed to him. And yet it doesn't as much. Like, he does get his ass handed to him, but...
He does, but it's also like...
It doesn't feel like quite as big of the build-up as I expected it to be.
No.
I feel like that scene alone would have had a bigger build-up from it, because you're like, okay, he has fucked with her a lot, so let's...
And there's so many people in the climax. You've got Finn and his sister. You've got his sister's boyfriend Ernesto. You've got the dad. You've got you've got Mustang. You've got the camp counselor guy. You've got Barbara and Andy, I think his name is. So I think you've got like 7 or 8 characters there.
Yeah.
And one grabber, and nobody dies.
No.
And that's the weirdest thing is.
It is.
The end kind of happens between two.
They're trying to find all of the
people.
bodies. They're on the ice, aren't they? They're trying to find all the bodies. They've found one out of the 3 kind of thing. And now they think that they can use this to actually, this is the final push. It's getting late now.
But nobody else needed to be there. Because she goes down and she gets...
someone to pull the crates up, basically.
Her dad, her dad does that. But nobody else necessarily needs to be there.
No, and if I'm honest, it also gets to a point after we get to the thing when I was a little bit questionable of, what the hell was... After we get to a certain point when the grabber finally gets his ass handed to him, we kind of then return to normality. And you're kind of looking at it like, what actually happened? Like, what were the rest of you doing in this moment? Because the fact that one of you is still just sat in the seat next to her and not being like, what the fuck is going on kind of thing. Or the fact that everyone else doesn't quite seem like quite as reactionary.
Just sat there like
and
that.
It also, kind of strangely then, like, you've had Finn in a certain way, but then it's not actually completely clear, like, how everyone else was seeing what Finn was doing, or anyone. It only really focused on just shots with Finn and the sister, so you kind of don't really get to see like what everyone else was reacting, or how it was like the ice and stuff doesn't look like all smashed up and fucked up like you'd expect it to look like from what they've just done around the ice kind of thing. It all looked a bit inconsistent after that scene where I was literally there like, am I meant to say like Finn actually wasn't there? Like that she imagined that Finn was doing all this shit? Like was Finn actually doing? I'm assuming he was, but it just didn't look like it at the end. That after he's gone, it just didn't look like that was the aftermath of like this. Everyone looked way too calm for someone who literally just saw someone like fucking bashing an invisible beast into the ground, and you know. I don't. Yeah, it does feel like a lot, and even when like Barbara and whatever his name, I don't know. You said Andy.
I think it's
Andy. After Andy and Bart, you know, we get skating grabber, and you know we get the sister go under the water in order to find the so she's using the power to be able to like see beyond, kind of thing, you know, which you know is fine. Is a good use of it. It's not quite the use I feel like the early scene built up to the idea that we could get from her, but you know, okay, so she's using that to kind of save that, and the dad helps with that. But we get the grabber kind of going around, and he gets Finn, and he starts strangling him, and he's like, finally got this. We do get, to be fair, I think probably my favourite look of the film with him with his jaw ripped off. So we've got this kind of you've got the muscles and the muscles of the jaw kind of that you can see moving around. Even though when he talks, sadly, it doesn't really move. Like his jaw doesn't sync up that well. Yeah. Like, you can tell that they've done it practically, which is good, but sadly it still kind of looks like a mask piece where Ethan Hawke is trying to talk underneath it, kind of thing, and not actually really moving that well with it. But yeah, you get Finn kind of being attacked, but yeah, to me it felt really jarring that he was suddenly able to just grab Finn, and that he was suddenly able to axe the guy, axe Andy, and literally like drag him round the ice. And the fact he's doing like we're following his skating lines, and you know there's a cool effect there that he's like the skate lines like appearing as he's like moving around, so you're seeing him more freely. I mean, it's weird that he's made his own skates.
It's so weird, and that's what I mean. That's the funniest thing about it, is that this guy is like he's a revenant child killer, and imagine you're there and you're just like, oh, he could be anywhere. Oh, he's skating towards us. You know, it's just like, the fuck. And he's like graceful and he's moving. And he's made his own skates. It's just fucking really funny.
Ethan Hawke's just like, I want to do my own skates.
I'm skating.
Yeah.
But there was just a part where I don't know if you heard, but I just laughed. I just couldn't help laugh because it was just weird.
The weird thing is, because so many other characters have like kind of gotten away or survived by this point, I don't know why, but when Andy does get hooked by the thing, by that point I just felt like, well, it feels like these two were literally brought out just for you to actually finally kill someone. And I mean, and they still didn't even die.
They get hit with it.
They get hit, and she gets her face bashed, like her nose bashed in against the ice by when Andy flies back into her.
Yeah.
So we get like a bit of blood there, but when those two were getting, I was like, well, this feels a little bit like you've literally only brought them back out here for cannon fodder, just to be someone that gets like badly like killed. I was expecting them to actually die, but they didn't die. They just kind of got his ass like spread around the whole ice.
I mean, that's an interesting term. He got his ass spread on the ice. Oh my god, what's the grandma doing to my husband? My husband's not complaining.
This is a different style of grabbing.
This is a different grab. Well, yeah, I don't know. It felt a bit like safe. It felt a bit like eventually it just got to a bit like even the cannon fodder aren't dying.
I'm not gonna lie, it even still felt like, even with the whole like getting the ball, it still felt like what they're trying to do here is basically build it to being, we're gonna have another film. It felt very much like we want to keep some of these characters alive,
maybe
because I feel like if we were gonna kill off the grabber, you know, we do get really cool, you know, when she like fights back against him and axes him in the head, and then Finn literally obliterates his face into the ice. Like, that's cool.
And then when he's, you know, crawling along and the ghost kids are kind of dragging him down, that's really cool.
Yeah. And we get the idea of him going down to there, but then, you know, whenever you get the idea that he's like dragged down and sustained in ice beneath the thing, you know, when have we seen something kept under the water for a long time to then return one day?
Yeah.
To me, it just felt very much like it was like, we're here, and we're kind of wrapping this up, but at the same time, we've still got like basically there's a grabber, like a spirit of the grabber that's still frozen down there.
Yeah.
When we get to summertime, it's time for him to now do Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
he's done Nightmare on Elm Street, and now next time we're going to do a bit of Friday the 13th, and now he's going to just kill. Next time he will kill people in the camp.
Oh, but you got to come and watch it. We promise he'll kill people next time.
Yeah, we promise. No, we'll probably have like a 2-hour think about each of them, having the build up of all of the characters for no campers to actually die.
Yeah.
That's the weird. That's the way you're expecting people to die. You've come to a horror film where we've implied that this will be much more of a slasher, so you're expecting people to die. So the twist is. Nobody dies.
Nobody dies. Yeah, it's a genius twist when you think about it.
It's a genius in the way that you kind of are pissed off about it.
Yeah.
You're like, I wanted to see the grabber kill someone. I wanted him to kill beyond the. I guess he only kills small children. That's all he does. He doesn't kill. He won't kill adults. That's not what he does.
He has rules. He has ethics.
But yeah, everyone, it's that everyone's getting kind of bashed around, but then it oddly always feels like people are very slow to react to any of them to help them out. Like I feel like they're going around there, or Finn's doing stuff, but the rest of them, because we're not seeing what they're doing, the rest of them are just basically just like, the fuck is he doing? Yeah, it's just like he's just bashing in the air. Yeah. Like he's just there, just literally slamming something down, and he's like, is he fucking I'm assuming he's doing the grabbing, but should we go and help?
Should we do something?
No, there's like 7 of us. We'll just watch.
That's it.
What were the rest of them doing when he was literally they were literally doing this whole fight where they can't even see her because she's asleep, so she's a ghost thing. So it's literally just Finn just fucking running around there, just bash, bang, and I'd just like to see the other perspective of them just watching him fighting an invisible beast.
Well, imagine if at the end of Halloween, when Laurie and Michael Myers are having a standoff. Imagine if there were 6 other people there just watching. And
just
then
to watch her in the
shoots
kitchen.
him, and they're just like, he shot him. All right, well done, mate.
Yeah.
What are they doing there?
Yeah.
They're not, Mustang, I don't think she's doing anything.
No.
And I was watching it and I came out and I was thinking, did this go through, problems with development? Was there originally, so much more that was supposed to happen? Or completely different scripts? Why are these characters at the end when they're not doing anything?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did feel yeah. Well, it's built into the plot, I guess, that they are there because they're trying to get them.
They're trying to get them out.
They're trying to get those parts out. But it felt very much like there was an easy way to lead them back to that area without having to actually have everyone else there, kind of thing. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Just
it feels like there was a pretty easy way to basically just have Finn and her end up being there because literally she's gone off again in the night, and now it's shit, where's he gone? And she's on the lake, and then there you go, we're all there. We don't need everyone else to be stood around. As I said, I found it really fucking weird that all that shit had gone down and Ernesto still just basically just sat there looking really calm next to her body. I mean, whatever has been going on there, but he's literally just sat there next to her body and there.
Well, I'm assuming we're still going to Duran Duran.
Yeah, are we still going to Duran Duran?
What do we do with it?
Afterwards, she gives him his first kiss. It's it's not our first kiss. It's what do you mean? What do you mean it's our? Well, you were fucking out of it for an hour and love, so
yeah,
I'm a bit weird.
Yeah, I'm a bit weird. My brother died, so I'm allowed to do it.
There are some of those another little in terms of characters. We have little quirks and stuff like that. I found some of the Ernesto and her weird the whole I find she gets into a bed with him.
I was watching and I didn't see. I thought that was her brother. and they were in bed, and I couldn't see. I mean,
some shots are quite dark.
Yeah, it's quite a dark shot. And then then she's like, I'm a so and so. And he's like, I think it's hot. And I was like, what? What the fuck? I was like, this is
you really misunderstood that whole
this is a dream sequence.
Yeah.
And then I noticed, and I was like, okay.
The whole that you pray that it is hot. It plays it just feels a bit odd, and then you're just there, but with Ernesto. Just there the whole time. But to be fair, it matches with a teenage boy when a girl of that age jumps into bed with him, and you can tell that he's basically just constantly finding ways to either call her hot or beautiful, because all he can think about in that scene is I'm rock solid right now, and I don't know. I can't do anything. He's definitely not leaning directly against her back because
but I'm at the awkward position where if I go back, you'll know, and if I go forward, you'll know. So I must remain statue still.
But all I can think about right now is how can I tell you that you're like beautiful or sexy or hot or something like that, because I really, I'm hoping that we can get something going here. Your brother's over there. I think he's asleep.
He's awake.
But I could get a pound.
I could pound. Real quick.
I thought it even seemed early on like they were going to play, Finn trying to ride Mustang.
I thought they were going to.
Yeah, I thought they were going to play that up as a little kind of he's got, Finn's got something going on now. He's got a bit of a, he's got a Mustang to ride.
That's it. She doesn't really do anything. So unless they are building to a third film. But then we end up in the. At the
end they just leave anyway. Like as if they're like, we'll leave that place behind, and next time he'll appear where other children's bodies are hidden.
Yeah, because he's killed more than surely.
That's what I mean. So that's my only thing is like I feel it. To be fair to them, that there is a quite easy way. If you're going to say that it's linked to the children's bodies, then there's probably a shit ton all over there. Yeah. Where's the next site? Space. Where else did he go?
He killed them in space. Yeah. We're going up, boys. We're going up. I would watch a third one.
Feel you, Grab.
I'd watch a third one because I as much as there were some clear flaws. It's
the fact that it's very much. I think that it still felt very much like they were trying to the first film again. Was quite slow, but it was in that kind of horror thriller kind of way, and it felt very natural to this kind of being taken kind of thing, childcare, that kind of vibe of that kind of. But it felt like it was trying for something a little bit more, I don't know, serious in its tone, and it felt like it was trying for more of a prestige horror. Where then you've got this sequel where they're still trying to make it feel like the Prestige, but they're trying to add in elements of, let's be honest, kind of, your trashy 80 horror in there as well.
Yeah.
And they're trying to blend these two things, and some of it's working and some of it's not working. And you're still trying to... And that... It's kind of the problem is, I guess, inside of everyone watching this film, where people are kind of like, I kind of want you to go more trashy horror. And I want you to kind of leave behind some of... You've done a nice setup with all of this very, more prestigious kind of horror style. But now in the third act, I want you to just go I want you to go trashy 80s horror and basically build this to be that. So next time, could we just have your knockoff Nightmare on Elm Street? Because I just want that.
Yeah, and I think they looked beautiful. It shot great. The soundtrack was banging.
Yeah, it has some harrowing scenes, like those scenes with the boys, scenes anytime we see the boys' ghosts and things like that, it's really like, oh shit. And a lot of the dream sequence stuff does work. I like the way that they kind of bring in stuff that isn't new, but they still made it feel like, oh, when she was getting cut up and things like that, it felt like, oh shit, it felt like it worked really well. And there was a real there's a scene when she's going back into the room of the grabber, and she goes through, and he catches her with the knife, and you get the blood, literally you see that appear on her chest, and I was like, oh, these are old school, obviously, effects, but it's really cool kind of style to use it. That stuff worked really well for me. Mainly, if I'm honest, it was for me. It was mainly more the third act when I felt it kind of. It didn't quite feel like it knew exactly where to take all of these things, and it kind of you could see it building towards the end, but it didn't feel like it was anything bigger or different than I really expected. It felt a bit low key. It felt like the grabber didn't really get his chance to shine, if I'm honest. It did feel like this film was sold to be the chance for the grabber to go what he didn't really get in the first film, to be the slasher that he kind of is implied to be, but we never fully get to see.
Yeah.
And we still didn't really ever get to see that.
No, of course, Yeah. And it just felt a bit just a bit lackluster. I feel like I did enjoy it, and I'd watch a third one, and it might be, if I watched Black Phone, if I watched the first one and I watched this one back, it might have a bit more cohesion, and I might enjoy it, because I was expecting a very different film. And I think I got something that was kind of more in line with the first one.
I think the one thing I can say about people that have said that it's not is that have said like it's like its own beast and things like that. Is that I don't think that that's actually true. I think it's actually very in line with the original.
Yeah.
Which if you that's why I think like if you did like the original and you're open to the idea of a sequel, then you'd really enjoy it. Like I think you'd probably really enjoy this because it sticks with that style. The only problem is, just like the first one, is the fact that I could say I enjoyed the first one and I remember liking it.
Yeah.
But it's the same almost kind of with this one where it's like I enjoyed this, but I didn't love it. And I remember the first one, I enjoyed it, but there was something almost holding me back from loving it. Is it in terms of like I don't know? There's just so almost where it's like these are loads of interesting things, but this also is not a horror film that I'm going to revisit that often because it's not that entertaining.
Yeah.
It's like a weird level of like you're watching it and you're waiting for the more entertaining part to come, which never fully feels like it fully came, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's something about that. I don't know. It's something about this style of when you make them like this, the style and the tone and the slower part of like you can appreciate it, but that doesn't mean that you absolutely like. Oh, I love this style of horror.
I just think everybody just felt very safe.
Yeah,
and I think that's the problem with
this felt like
films.
it needed to be.
It needed
to have stakes. Like
yeah,
as we said with that scene when the sister went for a moment, I actually thought she was dead because it did make it look like it.
Yeah,
like that was when I was like, this is why I felt, because it feels like this is trying really hard to be like the grabber is a violent killing. Like he'll kill children and he'll kill them in horrible ways, and the ways that we get to see them. So you feel like these are really harrowing, like scenes of children dying and stuff like that. So you feel like this is a really brutal guy who's not going to fuck around with things. He's going to get it done.
And if anything,
he doesn't,
is now kind of doesn't have to worry so much about being a person
or being caught, or
being
like
caught,
that's what held him back almost originally, is that he did yes, he wanted a bit of a play with it, but now it feels a bit like, why are we playing with it? Why aren't you just fucking going for it?
And it's almost like to do another comparison with Nightmare on Elm Street, which we are covering in our next episode. A little cheeky plug, so make sure you subscribe. But we mentioned in that, like little tease for them, that Freddy Krueger is a horrid man in his real life, but then when he dies, he becomes something more, and he plays with his victims more, and he knows it. He mutilates himself. He's horrid, and he revels in that kind of just being a disgusting thing, even worse than what he could have been, and basically being unstoppable.
Yeah.
And it felt like that's what they wanted the grabber to be, but instead he just throws somebody around the kitchen, bangs his head against a window and skates. Kind of like he never reaches.
He never reaches the impossible to defeat villain kind of thing that you might feel like. He never feels like this unstoppable. And this had the chance for it to be like Freddy, but to be fair to most of the Nightmare films, a Freddy that actually feels like a truly grim,
menacing
dark,
character.
Menacing, kind of properly scary kind of guy, like, which is what the grabber could have been. But I feel like when he is actually attacking them, he's not really as scary as like he seems like he's just walking around with his axe. He doesn't feel as hard to defeat. I mean, to be fair, she even like manages to hold the axe like against him, and this is a girl that, to be fair, is feels like she's half his size.
Yeah.
But we get some attack from that, but it does feel a little bit like it's like you're not really an unstoppable killer here. Like it feels like they should have let him be a bit more like insane and loose with it now that he hasn't got the restraints of the mortal coil or whatever, But instead, it still feels like he's very held back, and it feels like he should have been massacring people. To be honest, and I'm not saying I want it to go full on, slasher. But what I mean is, I feel like we need to see someone really brutally killed to make it feel kind of more real to everyone. And that is one thing definitely lacking here, is that it doesn't have that brutality of that thing. When we thought that she might be dead, suddenly I felt like, oh, shit, the stakes have changed now. That feels more like it. We are in for a bit of a bloodbath now, the third act kind of bloodbath. Anyone is on the table, and with Scott Derrickson, Ethan Hawke, and kind of in some of the stuff that's played in, like, say, even Sinister, before this and things. and you know, even like some of the kids that die, like in the first one, like you have kind of children that like died off that maybe you weren't expecting to go, or you didn't realize were gone, and things like that. And it feels like here we're just like we're lacking that brutality a bit. Like she gets kind of things done to her, but nothing more than kind of Freddy. You know what I mean? Like nothing more than Freddy like cutting her hair or catching her hair or things like that. It doesn't always feel like, and to be fair, also the scene when she does get the cord wrapped around her neck feels like it should have killed her anyway. She's already getting literally choked out, and then he fucking spins her with it. Like if that's meant to affect her in the real world, then which I'm assuming it doesn't, because then she doesn't actually have like she shouldn't be able to speak after that. No, she should literally be like croaking. But it doesn't seem to affect her in that real world that same way, which is why again I do think there was a little bit of a not quite defining your rules of what he can and can't do enough to make it be like he can do this and he can't do this. If he can't really fully attack them, then you know then make that very clear and make it more use of what the surroundings use if he can't fully do it. But if he can fully attack them, then he should be killing people. Not fucking with his food at that point. He should be fucking like, he gets Finn, he's got them around his thing, and he should be like, oh yeah, I've got a fucking axe in my belt, I'll just fucking slash your throat in. You know what I mean? Like it feels a little bit like he just like plays it like he gets thingy, but like we said, but like by the arm and like swims around the ice, which you know it's all very playing with your food, but it feels like that's what we get playing with your food and never fully indulging. You know, like why didn't he just fucking kill that guy, and why doesn't he go for it, and why doesn't he go for several of the other characters? Instead, he like there's one point when all you can assume he's doing is like the dad's there, and you think the dad's probably going to get it because the dad goes towards the ice, and you're thinking that. But instead, we see lines going around him as if all we're seeing is the grabber's he's just doing like I don't know, like whatever, like a pirouette or whatever, just going around the ice, just doing spins and stuff. He's just like, I'm quite enjoying this skating.
And you like it also makes sense because the idea that the grabber lured them there, and then there's a bunch of people, whereas it would have made sense if the grabber lures them and then starts picking people off. So that Finn and his sister are isolated. Instead, like I said, you just get to the end and you have like an abundance of people who have no role to play. Like Mustang just like sits on a horse and it's just like watching it.
Because the grabber literally says to Finn that he basically wants to cause him pain and he wants to bring friends around him, and he wants to and that's mainly through like, you killed my brother, so you killed my sister. But that again just feels like it feels like they're boxing him into this little like, so it's alright, I'm only really going for your sister, I'm just going to kill your sister, I'm only going to kill your sister, I've got the ability that I should really be able to just off everyone, but instead I'm mainly only going to do harm to your sister, and everyone else can kind of just watch, because he doesn't even finish off the other guy when he tries to drown him. I mean, that's just half-assed. He tries to drown him, and he's still able to, like, he doesn't even drown him enough that he's like literally like passed out in the water. He's enough that he can get out of the water.
He doesn't even die from the cold.
No, he doesn't. Like, he looks fucking frozen as shit, but
the next day he's like, all right, we'll go back out there.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking that fucking wimp Jack in Titanic couldn't last in the water for
couldn't do it. I don't know. It just comes off as a bit safe. I'd still, if you like you said, if you like the first one, people might enjoy it. But it does. I get the understanding of people saying like it's an unnecessary sequel. I was hoping I'd go in and I'd be like, it's unnecessary, but it's a really enjoyable, really tense, really gory film.
Really good time.
Really good time. And it's enjoyable, and it does have some really good tension and some creepy moments, some beautiful shots, a great score. It just feels a bit kind of uninspired, really.
I mean, it has some nice like character things with the mum and the the kind of the ending for them and stuff like that. Kind of adding on to the story of the kids from the original film, but it does just generally feel like they didn't want to do anything to those kids, really. Like they didn't want to do any more to them. So, and that's what I think in some ways makes it feel a little bit like, well, then why are we revisiting a horror film with a sequel horror film that doesn't really want to actually like up the stakes kind of thing? And that I know that's what's but that's kind of what sequels are meant to do.
Pretty much, yeah. You know, up the stakes until you jump the horse.
Yeah, but yeah, I enjoyed it, but yeah, I don't see myself, kind of, I guess, like the first Black Phone, to be fair, I don't see myself like revisiting it like very often. I'm sure I probably might watch it again at some point, but it's not something I'm going to jump to being like, oh yeah, I definitely want to see this. Whereas I'm not going to lie, based on the marketing for this film, I thought I was going to leave this being like, that was fucking like, that was both a mixture of that kind of the cool tone and the interesting themes of the first film and the style of the first film, but blended with something that's much more of a darker, gore, slasher kind of thing that feels a little bit like, fucking hell, like what did he do to those people? You know, not with that, I felt like there would have been a good balance, not going full on like fucking like Terrifier or something like that, but even the new Scream films, for instance, they have like a fair amount of gory kind of scenes that make you feel enough like, oh, there's actually some people are dying, or some people have some stakes and stuff. There's at least enough of that. That's kind of that level where you just feel. I can't imagine a lot of horror fans leaving and not being a little bit underwhelmed by that.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I thought I'd come out with like one of the best horror films of 2025. I think Scott Derrickson has it in him to create incredible horror films.
He does. He's a really good director.
Yeah,
like he makes things beautiful. I just think that maybe they just didn't. I don't know. I think the script is just a little bit lacking at times in some areas of how to like really progress this idea and how to make it feel a bit more kind of urgent at times. And I think the other thing is at times I think. As I was mentioning earlier, the characters at times go from like interesting to sometimes like there's only so many times you can hear the sister make like a fucking swear word where she does it in her unusual way, but before it starts kind of sounding a bit like, before you start being like, yeah, do you really have to talk to everybody like that same way? It just feels a bit unnecessary. Like it was some of those things, and does she have to get all of the interesting dialogue and Finn can have none?
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, anything else to say?
Pretty much. No, I think we've done it.
I think we've done it. I mean, that's just our kind of initial reaction. We may change. It could be we go in with it, and now we know what to expect. We get a kind of different film and we enjoy it more. But come and let us know your thoughts on the Black Phone 2. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at CMDH Podcast. As always, remember to hit that subscribe button. It helps the show grow. Leave us a lovely review. And we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Play us out, boys.